My sister is carrying my husband's child. My brother stole my music, legacy, and everything I worked for. My husband never loved me. He only saw me as a means to wealth and power. In the end, my treacherous family betrayed me in the cruelest way. They murdered me. But fate wasn't done with me yet. I opened my eyes to find myself 5 years in the past, right before it all began. This time, things will be different. I won't be the naive fool they can manipulate and destroy. This time, I'll make them pay for every lie, every betrayal, and every ounce of pain they caused me. I'll hit them where it hurts the most, right where it stings. Don't cry now. This is the perfect revenge for the worst family. I'd rather burn in hell than live another moment filled with regret. My revenge has just begun. Rain poured heavily outside as Regina lay on the cold marble floor. Her breaths grew weaker, and her vision started to fade, slipping further away with each passing moment. The poison they had given her was working quickly, draining her life away. Standing over her were the people she once called family, her stepsister, Emily, her stepbrother, David, and the man she once loved, Mike. None of them showed any remorse. Emily smirked with satisfaction, her eyes gleaming with triumph. David raised his glass, mocking her in her final moments, while Mike stood apart, adjusting his cufflinks as though her life meant nothing. "Thank you, Regina," Emily said with a cruel smile. "Your music, your fame, your money. It's all ours now." As her heart slowed, Regina's mind flooded with emotions, anger, sadness, and deep regret. She had trusted them, loved them, and they had repaid her with nothing but cruelty and betrayal. Her final thought burned with regret. If only I had seen the truth sooner. And with that, everything went dark. Before it all fell apart. Regina was a rising star in the music industry, loved by fans worldwide for her soulful voice that touched hearts. She stood on the grand stage, her face glowing under the bright lights as the crowd erupted in applause. Tears filled her eyes as she bowed, grateful for the love and admiration pouring from her fans. She was a global sensation, a symbol of hope and inspiration to millions. She seemed to have it all, fame, talent, and a bright future. But behind the applause and glamour, Regina's life was far from perfect. Beneath the surface, she struggled with betrayal and lies that made her world feel like a prison. The glittering lights of fame hid a dark reality, one filled with secrets and tragedy that would shock those who adored her. Regina always believed in love, family, and loyalty. She thought her step-siblings, Emily and David, were her everything. She loved and cared for them, thinking their bond was unbreakable. They grew up together, sharing meals, playing, and dreaming about the future. To her, they were more than step-siblings, they were her family. Her father, a kind and supportive man, was Regina's greatest champion after her mother passed away. Though life was hard without her mother, her father never let Regina feel alone. When he remarried, her stepmother was distant and cold, but her father's unwavering belief in Regina's dream of becoming a singer filled the void. He cheered her on through every challenge, reminding her that her voice had the power to touch hearts all over the world. When Regina's voice began to captivate audiences far and wide, she carried the pride of knowing she had made her father happy. He had always told her she was destined for greatness, and every success felt like a tribute to his love and encouragement. But her father never got to see her rise to fame. He passed away before she became a global sensation, leaving Regina heartbroken and alone. The only family she had left were her stepmother's children, Emily and David. Regina's songs brought her fame, love, and money. She thought her success was a blessing for her family, but at home, jealousy was growing. She didn't notice the quiet anger behind Emily's smiles or the bitterness in David's jokes. She was so full of love for them that she couldn't see how much they envied her. Emily was jealous of how Regina could light up any room. She hated the attention and money Regina's fame brought, always feeling like she could never measure up. With her innocent smile and soft-spoken charm, Emily hid behind a kind facade. She was a master manipulator, using her quiet nature to conceal her jealousy and carry out cruel plans without anyone suspecting her true intentions. David couldn't stand Regina's talent. Jealousy burned inside him, and he felt left behind, believing her success had stolen the spotlight he deserved. His ambition consumed him, driving him to take whatever steps were necessary to claim her success as his own. Fueled by envy, David teamed up with Emily, who shared his hatred for Regina. Together, they forged a dangerous alliance with Mike, Regina's husband. Mike wasn't the loving partner he appeared to be. He was their tool, a key player in their plan to bring Regina down. Mike was everything Regina thought she wanted: handsome, caring, and full of sweet promises. She fell deeply in love with him, never doubting his devotion. But Mike wasn't the man she thought he was. He was Emily's secret lover, planted in Regina's life to destroy her from the inside. His plan was simple: win her heart, gain her trust, and help Emily and David take everything she had worked for: her wealth, her legacy, and her happiness. Regina, blinded by love and trust, never saw it coming. The people she held closest were the ones plotting her downfall. It all started when Regina noticed David meddling in her career. Her songs were being leaked online before their release, and she began losing important deals. Suspicious, she confronted David, but he denied any involvement, blaming the record label instead. What Regina didn't realize was that David was meddling far more than she thought. He had been secretly siphoning her royalties and rebranding her music as his own. While she worked tirelessly, he was building a separate career off her efforts, betraying the trust she had in him. Emily was carrying Mike's child, a secret that bound them together in betrayal. Yet, when Regina discovered Emily's pregnancy, she felt nothing but pure joy. Oblivious to the deceit, she celebrated the news with genuine excitement, her heart brimming with love for her sister and the new life on the way. "You're going to be the best aunt," Emily said with a warm, reassuring smile as her hand rested tenderly on her growing belly. Regina beamed with excitement, completely unaware that the child she eagerly anticipated spoiling and loving was the result of her own husband's ultimate betrayal. On her 30th birthday, Regina was the center of attention, celebrated by the world for her incredible success. The party was lavish, filled with admiration and applause. Yet beneath the surface, betrayal lurked. Late that cold, rainy night, when everyone thought she was still mingling with her guests, Regina stepped back inside and overheard a conversation that would seal her fate. Hidden in the shadows, her heart sank as Emily's cold voice cut through the silence. "We'll take it all," Emily said with a sneer. "Her money, her name, her songs. Once she's gone, the world will only remember us." Mike's laughter followed, low and cruel. "And then we'll finally be free to be together. You, me, and our unborn child will have the life we've always dreamed of." David's voice was laced with triumph. "And I'll take over all her music. Her legacy will be mine." Regina's breath caught as the weight of their betrayal crashed over her. But her movement gave her away. The faint sound of her gasp made them freeze. They turned, their faces shifting from surprise to a dark, collective understanding. Regina knew too much, and they knew the risk of letting her leave with their secrets. Emily exchanged a sharp glance with the others, and Mike quickly reached for a glass on the table. Moving with chilling precision, he poured a lethal dose of poison into the drink. Together, the three of them approached Regina, blocking her escape. "You should have stayed outside," Emily said coldly, her sweet facade gone. Despite her protests and struggle, the three worked together, forcing the drink down her throat. Regina's cries turned into choking gasps as the poison began to take hold. They stood over her, watching as she collapsed to the ground, her body convulsing in pain. The light in her eyes dimmed as her breathing slowed, and then finally stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Mike broke it with a hollow voice. "It's done." Emily knelt beside Regina's lifeless body and sneered. "Everything you had will be ours now, Regina. You were always too blind to see how much we hated you." As the poison claimed her, Regina's mind filled with sadness, not anger. She had loved them so much, trusted them with everything, and they had destroyed her. Her final thought was one of deep regret. A single tear slid down her cheek, a quiet symbol of the betrayal that had taken her life. The second chance. When Regina opened her eyes, she wasn't in heaven or hell. She was back in her old bedroom, the one she hadn't seen in years. Everything looked the same, and when she glanced in the mirror, she froze. She was 25 again. Her face was youthful, untouched by the pain of betrayal. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her phone, and the date confirmed it, 5 years earlier. Regina fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Was this real? A miracle? Or some cruel joke? Slowly, the realization sank in. This wasn't a dream. It was a second chance, a chance to rewrite her story. They won't get away with it this time, Regina whispered, her voice shaking with anger and determination. Emily, David, Mike, they'll regret ever betraying me. This time, she wouldn't be the victim. This time, they would pay. Regina didn't hesitate. She opened her old journals, remembering all the betrayals and weaknesses of her so-called family. Each word she wrote was a reminder of the pain they caused. She was determined. This time, she would not be the victim. As she wrote down everything she could recall about Emily, David, and Mike, a plan formed in her mind. She gave herself 5 years to make them pay for what they had done. 5 years to take them down one by one, before she turned 30 again. No more love. No more trust. This time, Regina would take control of her life, her work, and her future. She wouldn't just survive the betrayal. She would rise above it, stronger and more determined than ever. The people who had wronged her would regret the day they crossed her path. David was first on her list. He had always envied her musical talent, but he had never been able to create anything of his own. Instead, he had relied on her success, stealing from her without remorse. Regina had trusted him once, but not again. This time, she would protect her work and expose him for the fraud he truly was. The world would see him for what he really was, a thief living off her genius. Next was Emily, her stepsister. Emily had always used her charm to manipulate those around her, hiding her true, venomous nature behind a sweet smile. Regina had trusted her, loved her as family, but now she saw the lies that Emily had spun. She would no longer be deceived. Regina vowed to reveal the truth to everyone, to expose Emily for the snake she truly was. And then there was Mike, the man she had once loved and trusted with everything. He had been her greatest betrayal, motivated by greed and ambition. But Regina knew the truth now. He was nothing more than Emily's pawn, a willing accomplice in her destruction. Regina was done being his victim. This time, she would turn the tables. She'd make him fall for her all over again, only to tear him apart when he least expected it. She would make him pay for the pain he had caused her, just as she would make the others regret ever crossing her. This time, Regina wasn't just seeking revenge. She was reclaiming her power, and no one would stand in her way. Later that day, Regina left her room, calm and composed as if nothing had happened. She smiled politely at the very people who had betrayed her, hiding her true feelings behind a mask. David was in his studio, pretending to be the musical genius everyone thought he was. But Regina knew the truth. Every song he claimed as his own had been stolen from her. She still remembered how he had taken her work, her trust, and left her with nothing. In the living room, Emily sat scrolling through her phone, wearing her usual fake, sweet smile. Regina saw right through it. She knew how Emily had planned everything, using Mike to get close to her, steal her wealth, and destroy her spirit. Emily had always been good at fooling people, but Regina wasn't fooled anymore. And then there was Mike, sitting at the dining table, flipping through papers as if he still had everything under control. He had once been her husband, charming and full of promises. But to Regina, he now stood for everything she hated: lies, greed, and betrayal. Mike had pretended to love her, but it was all part of his plan to take her money and power. Now it was their turn to feel what it was like to lose everything they cared about. They had taken her music, her trust, and even her life. Now she would make sure they paid for it all. As Regina walked past them, her heart was steady and her mind was clear. Soon, they would feel the pain they had caused her. They had left her to suffer, but now it was their turn. David was Regina's first target. In her past life, she had trusted him, ignoring his jealousy and sneaky attempts to overshadow her. But this time she knew the truth. Armed with memories of his betrayal, Regina planned to destroy him completely. Regina protected her music by adding secret watermarks to every song, making it impossible to steal without getting caught. Regina carefully crafted a new identity, releasing her music under the pseudonym Raven Cole. The name was mysterious, and her songs quickly caught the attention of fans and critics online. With each release, her following grew, and the world began to recognize the brilliance of Raven Cole. This wasn't just about success, it was part of Regina's plan. She handed David a few old drafts of her work, knowing exactly how his mind worked. His greed and desperation to look talented wouldn't let him ignore the opportunity. It was the perfect trap. As she watched him take credit for her songs, Regina smiled. She knew it was only a matter of time before everything fell apart for him. Just as she predicted, David stole one of her songs and claimed it as his own. The song became a hit, and for a short while he enjoyed fame and admiration. But Regina's plan worked flawlessly. The song had a hidden watermark that couldn't be erased, proving the song belonged to Raven Cole. When the truth came out, the news exploded online. David Smith exposed as a fraud. Fans turned on him immediately, and producers blacklisted him for stealing from another artist. His career was finished. But Regina didn't stop there. Public shame wasn't enough. The fallout from the scandal ruined David's reputation and finances. Unable to find work and drowning in debt, he was forced to sell his car and his home. The once proud and arrogant David now lived in a tiny, rundown apartment, utterly humiliated. Emily was next. She had been the mastermind behind Regina's betrayal, planning every detail. She convinced Mike to marry Regina, not for love, but to steal her wealth and ruin her life. Emily's greatest weapon was her ability to manipulate people with fake tears, so convincing that they made anyone believe her lies. With those tears, she painted herself as a victim, twisting situations to her advantage and hiding the damage she caused. But this time, Regina wasn't falling for it. Regina knew Emily's biggest weakness, her vanity. Emily loved being admired and trusted, always presenting herself as flawless and innocent. She enjoyed being seen as the perfect sister, the one everyone depended on. But Regina knew the truth. Behind those crocodile tears was a cunning manipulator who thrived on deceit. This time, Regina was ready to expose her for who she really was. Regina didn't waste any time. She started gathering evidence to expose Emily. Every time Emily gave a fake apology, staged tears, or tried to manipulate someone, Regina secretly recorded it. She also found proof of Emily stealing money, using family accounts and hiding fraudulent transactions. Slowly, Regina uncovered the truth, piece by piece, showing the cracks in Emily's perfect image. Regina was patient. She worked quietly, making sure her plan would leave no room for Emily to escape. Every lie, every fake tear, and every manipulative act became part of the proof Regina was collecting. She knew she had to wait for the right moment to strike. When the time came, Regina launched her plan. She created an anonymous social media account and started posting clues about Emily's real nature. Her first post said, "The truth about the perfect Emily is coming." People noticed it right away. Soon after, she shared a video of Emily's fake crying with the caption, "Behind the tears lies the devil." Another post showed evidence of Emily stealing money with the caption, "How innocent is she really?" The posts spread quickly and people began to talk. Questions and doubts started to grow. Is this true? Could Emily really do something like this? She always seemed too perfect. Emily's flawless image started to fall apart. The whispers turned into loud accusations. Emily's fake tears and sweet words no longer worked. The same people who once supported her now doubted everything she said. Even her closest friends began to back away, leaving her to face the growing scandal alone. Regina observed silently as Emily's carefully constructed world began to collapse. But for Regina, this wasn't about mere humiliation, it was about justice. Emily had taken so much, leaving a trail of lies and betrayal, and now it was time for her to face the consequences. Regina wasn't seeking revenge for its own sake. She wanted Emily to truly understand the weight of her actions and feel the loss of everything she had unjustly gained. This was just the beginning of Emily's reckoning, and Regina was determined to see it through to the end. Mike was next. His betrayal had cut Regina the deepest, leaving scars that gave her powerful motivation for revenge. The man she had once loved, the one she had trusted with her heart, had seen her not as a partner but as a stepping stone to his own ambition, a means to wealth and fame. Worse still, he had conspired with Emily to destroy her completely. But Regina was no longer the naive woman who had believed in his lies. She had transformed her pain into purpose, and now she was ready to turn the tables. This time, it was Mike who would learn the true meaning of betrayal, and Regina would ensure he felt every ounce of the pain he had caused. Back in the early days of their relationship, before their doomed marriage, Regina knew exactly how to play him. She pretended to fall for his charms once again, letting him believe he had won her heart. Mike, blinded by his own desires, mistook her calculated affection for genuine love. His ambition turned into overconfidence as he eagerly confessed his undying love for her. In his mind, marrying Regina wasn't just about love. It was about securing a ticket to a life of wealth and influence. When he proposed, his voice brimmed with excitement, already imagining the doors her status would open for him. Regina accepted his proposal with a dazzling smile that hid the wheels turning in her mind. She knew exactly how to manipulate him, and now she had him right where she wanted him. Gently, she planted the idea that their love deserved the grandest celebration. "Only the best for us," she would say with an adoring gaze, while subtly encouraging his extravagant plans. Mike, intoxicated by visions of power and prestige, threw himself into creating the perfect wedding. He poured every penny of his savings into a luxurious venue, opulent decorations, and designer attire, believing it was a small price to pay for the life he thought he was about to secure. He bragged to anyone who would listen about the wedding of the century he was planning, convinced he was investing in his bright future. What he didn't realize, however, was that the very life he was trying to buy was the bait in Regina's trap. Each lavish decision he made tightened the strings she was pulling, inching her closer to the revenge she had carefully crafted. For Regina, the wedding wasn't a union. It was the beginning of Mike's undoing, and she was prepared to make him pay for every ounce of betrayal. On the day of the wedding, the church was full of people. Friends, family, and important guests filled every seat, eager to see Mike and Regina tie the knot. The decorations were grand, beautiful flowers, sparkling chandeliers, and everything Mike had spent his savings on to make the day perfect. Mike stood at the altar, dressed in his finest suit, feeling proud and confident. He smiled at the crowd, sure that this day would be the start of a great life. The room was buzzing with excitement as everyone turned to watch the bride's entrance. But Regina didn't come. The minutes passed, and the crowd grew restless. Mike's smile faded as he glanced nervously at the door, waiting for her to appear. Whispers started among the guests, growing louder as they realized something was wrong. The truth soon became clear: Regina wasn't coming. She had left Mike standing there, alone, in front of everyone. The whispers turned to murmurs of shock, and some people even laughed quietly. Others took out their phones, capturing the moment of his humiliation. Mike stood frozen at the altar, his confidence shattered. Everything he had worked for, all the money he had spent, all the dreams of a future with Regina, it all came crashing down. She had planned this, leaving him to face the shame and embarrassment of being abandoned on what was supposed to be the biggest day of his life. In that moment, Mike realized the full weight of his mistake, left humiliated and alone in front of the people he had wanted to impress the most. The aftermath was quick and brutal. News of Mike being abandoned at the altar spread everywhere. People whispered about him, laughed at his expense, and social media was flooded with jokes and memes about the groom who got left behind. Mike became a joke, but the humiliation wasn't the worst of it. He was left completely broke. Every penny of his savings, and even the money he had borrowed from family and friends, had been spent on a wedding that never happened. The fancy venue, designer clothes, and extravagant decorations were now useless reminders of what could have been. Mike had planned to secure a rich and glamorous life by marrying Regina, but instead, he lost everything. Regina watched from a distance, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Mike was starting to feel the pain she had once felt, but she knew this was only the beginning. Regina wasn't finished yet. She had already destroyed each of her enemies. David, the thief, had lost his career. Emily, the manipulative liar, had seen her perfect image fall apart. And Mike, the man she had once loved, was now broke, humiliated, and left with nothing. But for Regina, this wasn't enough. She wanted more than public shame. She wanted them to pay for their crimes in a court of law. She had one final plan to make sure they faced real justice and ended up where they belonged, behind bars. Regina had worked quietly for years, gathering every piece of evidence she needed. She had bank records, recordings, and proof of their lies, theft, and betrayal. She made sure there was no way they could escape this time. Regina would never forget the night they plotted against her. Their cruel laughter, the way they calmly poisoned her, and the coldness in their eyes as they ended her life without a second thought. They thought she was weak and easy to get rid of. But they were wrong. Regina was given a second chance, and instead of breaking her, their betrayal made her stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. Emily, David, and Mike had taken everything from her. Her trust, her love, her music, and even her life. But this time, things were different. Regina was in control now. She had spent years planning her revenge, and now the moment had come to make them pay for what they did. Regina came up with a brilliant plan. She pretended to be an anonymous dealer offering a life-changing opportunity. She sent private messages to each of them, making it sound like they could get back everything they had lost. To Emily, she offered a chance to rebuild her reputation. To David, she promised powerful connections to save his career. And to Mike, she offered the wealth and power he had always dreamed of. There was one condition. They had to meet together to finalize the deal. Blinded by desperation, none of them questioned the mysterious offer. Each believed it was their lucky break, their second chance to fix everything. On the day of the meeting, they walked into an expensive-looking venue. The room was grand, with luxurious furniture and a large table set to impress. It looked like the perfect place for the big deal they thought was coming. What they didn't know was that Regina had hidden cameras everywhere, ready to record every word and action. Regina sat in a nearby room, quietly watching everything unfold on the monitor. One by one, Emily, David, and Mike entered the meeting room. Each one looked tense, their eyes darting around with suspicion. None of them had been told the others would be there, and the confusion was clear on their faces. As they settled into their seats, the silence quickly turned into awkward tension. They exchanged sharp glances, and it wasn't long before the cracks in their relationships began to show. Old betrayals bubbled to the surface, and the finger-pointing started. Just as Regina had planned, they began to turn on each other, blaming one another for their failures. Emily, always eager to spark drama, broke the silence first. She folded her arms and glared at the others. "What is this? Why are you two here? This doesn't make any sense." Mike's face turned red with anger, and he shot up from his seat. "You're the one who told me to marry Regina. You said she was naive, that she'd be easy to control, and I'd get access to her wealth. And look where that got me. She left me standing at the altar in front of everyone. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" His voice grew louder, almost cracking with rage. "I'm broke, Emily. Broke. My life savings, everything I had, is gone. I'm drowning in debt because of your stupid plan." David, who had been sitting quietly, let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, please," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Don't act like you're the only one who lost everything, Mike. Emily screwed me over too. She convinced me to steal Regina's music, promised we'd split the profits, and then left me to take the fall when things went wrong." He slammed his fist on the table, his voice rising. "I lost my career, Emily. Everything I worked for is gone because of you. Emily rolled her eyes and leaned forward with a smirk. Oh, please, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You both knew exactly what you were doing. Don't act like victims now. You went along with the plan because you thought you'd win. And let's not forget, Mike, you were happy to play the perfect fiancé while you drained Regina dry. Mike clenched his fists, his voice shaking with rage. Don't push me, Emily. You're the one who planted this stupid idea in my head. And David, you're no better. You lied about Regina, told me she didn't deserve her success, and pushed me to go along with this mess. And now look at us, we're all ruined. Emily sneered and leaned closer, her tone mocking. Oh, stop whining, Mike. You were supposed to marry Regina and get rid of her quietly. That was the plan, wasn't it? You failed. Miserably. The room erupted into chaos. They shouted over each other, pointing fingers and throwing blame. Their anger and betrayal filled the room. None of them realized they were being recorded, every word captured for the trap Regina had carefully planned. In the other room, Regina watched with a calm smile. Everything was going exactly as she had planned. Emily, David, and Mike were tearing each other apart, revealing all their guilt without even knowing it. This was the moment Regina had waited years for. They thought they could destroy her, but now they were the ones trapped, powerless, and exposed. Regina had heard enough. Calm and in control, she stepped into the room. The sight of her stopped them cold. Emily, David, and Mike froze, their faces pale with shock and fear. Regina's sharp gaze swept over them. She remembered it all, the way they had plotted to get rid of her in her past life, their cruel laughter as they planned her downfall, and the poison they used to silence her forever. But they had failed. She was here now, stronger and smarter, and this time she was ready. She had brought backup. Surprised to see me? Regina said, her voice icy and cutting through the silence. You thought I'd never find out, didn't you? But I know everything. And now the whole world will too. Mike stammered, sweat glistening on his forehead. Regina, I can explain. You already have, Regina snapped, cutting him off. She pointed to the cameras in the room. Every word you just said is recorded. The lies, the theft, the betrayal, the plan to kill me, it's all there. It's over. You're done. Before they could say another word, the sound of sirens filled the air. The panic in their eyes deepened as footsteps echoed in the hall. Moments later, police officers stormed in, surrounding the room. Emily, David, and Mike were cuffed and dragged to their feet. They shouted over one another, blaming and accusing, desperately trying to shift the guilt. This was all her idea. Mike yelled, pointing at Emily. You're lying. Emily shrieked. It was David's plan. David shook his head in disbelief. You're both crazy. Don't drag me into this. But it was too late. Their confessions had already sealed their fate. The trial was quick and crushing. Regina had all the evidence, recordings, stolen documents, and proof of their crimes. Emily, David, and Mike were found guilty of conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. There was no way for them to escape the truth. The media wasted no time, sharing every detail of their greed and betrayal. Headlines exposed their lies, and social media exploded with anger and disgust. Their names became infamous, and their reputations were ruined overnight. Justice had been served, and their lives would never be the same. Each of them received long prison sentences, their lives destroyed. The people who had once seen themselves as unstoppable had lost everything, and the world knew the truth. For Regina, justice had finally been served. She had reclaimed her life, her dignity, and her music. As she walked out of the courthouse, a sense of peace washed over her. The weight of years of pain and betrayal was gone. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about starting over. Regina returned to her music with a new fire. She poured her heart and soul into every song, creating music that told her story of survival and strength. Her pain had become her power, and the world couldn't get enough of it. For the first time in years, Regina felt truly free. She wasn't just alive, she was thriving, stronger and wiser than ever. This was her new beginning, and she knew she had the power to create the life she deserved. The end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more inspiring and captivating stories. Your support means the world, and I can't wait to share more incredible journeys with you.